What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another weekly update. So lots of news to go over. A lot of it is the Frankfurt Motor Show is going on this week. I talked about a few of the reveals already last week, so you'll want to watch last week's video if you didn't, so you don't miss any of the Frankfurt stuff here. But the first one to talk about for this week's reveals is the BMW Concept 4. And so this is a slightly more dramatic version of the coming 4 Series coupe, and so this one has this huge grille, which most people really seem to be hating on the internet, and so a lot of BMW fans are up in arms about it, but I wouldn't get too upset about this grille because whenever we saw the 4 Series prototype lapping the Nürburgring last month, it seemed to have a normal-sized BMW grille. So unless they did some very fancy camouflage there to hide the fact that this has this massive grille off of the X7, I don't think it's going to make its way to production, but I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, I think the concept looks fantastic, though. I mean, all the lines and everything, it really looks sharp. Very cool, especially love the headlights and stuff. And even the hood looks very cool. And I mean, I personally don't mind the grille a ton, but I can certainly see everyone's objections with it. But anyway, so interesting to see that one. For some production vehicles that were revealed, though, Ferrari revealed 2 cars at the Frankfurt Motor Show here. The first is the Ferrari 812 GTS, which is much less pretentious than the 812 Superfast. And so this is the first regular production convertible V12 that Ferrari's made in over 50 years, basically. And so, you know, there have been other ones throughout the years, but they've all been very limited models, not normal regular production models. But basically it's the same as the 812 Superfast with the amazing 6.5 liter V12 that does 789 horsepower as it screams to its 8,900 RPM red line. And so this one just, of course, has the power retractable hardtop that is very nice in its execution. You know, it has a similar type of flying buttresses like you see on the 48 convertibles and all that type of stuff. And it looks very good. And there's even a little glass window that you can have raised, you know, up or down, so that if you want to have the roof on, but you still want to hear the V12 a little bit better, you can just lower that. Sounds fantastic. That top can be operated at speeds up to 28 miles per hour as well, and goes up or down in 14 seconds. The only mechanical change that is actually pretty cool is that the 7-speed dual clutch transmission now has shorter ratios, which means it should rip even harder than it did in the past. And so that's always a great improvement for any car to make it more exciting. And I don't think the 812 was short on excitement, but now it's even crazier. 0 to 60 is under 3 seconds. And yeah, this car immediately went on my dream car wish list. So awesome to see that one there. The other Ferrari that was revealed was the F8 Spider. And so this is the convertible version of the F8 Tributo with flying buttresses, very similar to the 48 Spiders. So, you know, a lot of similarities here. It runs the same engine as the F8 Tributo, which is a 710 horsepower version, a twin turbo V8, again, enhanced from the 48. So this is all just kind of evolutionary changes here and very much expected. The Spider version of the F8 here is 154 pounds heavier than the coupe, but still does 0 to 62 miles per hour in 2.9 seconds and the same 211 mile per hour top speeds. You don't really give up a whole lot with the Spider other than a little bit of a heavier feel. But anyway, awesome to see that. Bugatti also revealed the Chiron Super Sport 300 Plus, which is very appropriately named. If you watched last week's update there on you know, Bugatti cracking the 300 mile per hour record there in a production vehicle, basically. It was technically pre-production, but these are the production versions that they are building. So they're making 30 of these. And it's basically, it's identical to the one, aside from maybe having the racing seat or whatever that they had in the record car. But yeah, so this thing will do over 300 miles per hour. It uses the same quad turbo W16 engine as a regular Chiron, but with 100 more horsepower for 1,600 total. This allows it to do 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, and the Michelin tires are actually rated at 317 miles per hour if you can find a place to do that. Of course, they only went 304 in the official record-setting attempt, and they said they could have probably gone higher, but they just didn't feel the need to. Don't know why, but that was what they were good with. So anyway, it can probably go even faster than that if you wanted it to, which is just crazy. Only 30 of these are going to be made, but the starting price is $3.5 million, which is actually reasonable considering a normal Chiron usually goes for about $3 million as is. So an extra 500 grand whenever it's the one that's going to have an extra 100 horsepower. And it has this longer bodywork too. I think they said it's something like 10 inches longer than the normal Chiron. And it's all carbon fiber. It looks really stunning. So an extra 500 grand, it's not bad, honestly. But of course, their CEO said they will all be gone in the blink of an eye. They probably already are. And I'm sure there's people that are offering double that just to even get one that wasn't able to get one of those 30. So pretty crazy, but anyway, awesome to see that. Audi has revealed the RS7, and it's basically, got all the same mechanicals as the RS6 Avant that all the hoopla was over in the past couple of weeks. That I personally was very excited to see the RS6 Avant that we're getting here in North America again. And so the RS7, of course, we're also getting, but same mechanicals, just with the A7's hatchback body style instead. That means it's the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 with 600 horsepower, an 8-speed auto, and all-wheel drive. It also gets the 4-wheel steering like the RS6 Avant, sportier air suspension, and optional carbon ceramic brakes that save 75 pounds if you'd like. One change from the old RS7 is that this one can now have a 3-person rear bench seat, because before it was only a 2-seater in the back, and I guess a lot of RS7 owners said we wanted to have more practicality, please give us a normal bench. And so Audi has listened and put one in here. And so that's a nice little change, but you can still get a 2-seater option if you would like in this new one. And so they're going to be arriving next year, but they don't have any pricing yet. But of course, it's going to be a 6-figure car, almost certainly. Land Rover this week has revealed the all-new 2020 Defender finally, and it's pretty big news. I think it actually looks kind of cool. I know some people said they don't like the styling though, so let me know what you think in the comments. But it's going to be available in both 2-door and 4-door body styles. They both look very retro, and it looks similar to me as like a British luxury version of what the new Ford Bronco will likely be like. They're kind of beating Ford to the punch here. It'll also be available in the US too, and should be kind of, in my opinion, a nice halfway point between stuff like the Bronco and the Wranglers without going for the full $100,000 plus Mercedes G-Wagon, kind of be a middle ground, which is cool. Size-wise, it's about a foot longer than a Wrangler and a few inches taller and wider as well, so a tiny bit bigger, but not drastically. Land Rover says this is the stiffest SUV it's ever made, but this one does have an independent front and rear suspension, and it's on a unibody frame now. And that upset most of the Defender community, who was, those vehicles. The original Defenders are solid axles, front and rear, a body on frame design and stuff. So this is a lot softer. And it shares a lot with the current Range Rovers, which are also very impressive off-road, but not Defender rugged. So I think that's kind of the thing that people are a little bit upset about here. But I personally think it still sounds like it's going to be pretty decent off-road at least. So, they say it's going to have a full-time 4-wheel drive system with low and high range, an active locking rear differential, and a manually locking center differential. You can get as options. It has an air suspension that can go from 8.5 inches of ground clearance to 11.5. And so all those types of things, you can see it can wade very deep water and has even a whole electronic system to manage that and everything. It's all very clever. There's all kinds of tricks up this thing's sleeve. One interesting thing is they mentioned, actually in the Drive Tribe video where Richard Hammond did a little mini review on it already, he mentioned how the navigation system will intelligently know when you're on roads you're familiar with and will silence the navigation while it still runs in the background, which I personally love because I hate always having to silence my navigation when it's giving me directions to the last 5 turns to my house that I can do with my eyes closed. So that's actually just a small little feature that I personally think is very clever, and I'm surprised no one else has come up with that yet. But anyway, going on to other mechanical stuff here. Power-wise, the 4-door version is going to be starting with a 4-cylinder turbo motor. You're getting all the JLR stuff recently that does 296 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds. The optional engine in the 4-door that's also standard in the 2-door version is this turbo inline 6 from the new Range Rovers that were just rolled out a couple of months ago. That does 395 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque and has a 48-volt mild hybrid setup as well. It'll do 60 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds for the 2-door, 5.8 for the 4-door. It all comes with the 8ZF 8-speed automatic, so good automatic there behind it. It's also rated to tow 8,200 pounds, which is a pretty solid tow rating for just about anything. Even mid-sized pickups can't do it. I think the Gladiator is the highest at, about 7,600 pounds. So, I mean, you're talking about a pretty good amount of towing here as well. Diesel is going to even be available for the UK as well, but not for the States, I don't think. The interior looks pretty cool too to me. You can even get a jump seat there in the middle to seat 3 across the front, which is very unique. I'm not sure how that'll work here in the United States with our requirements as far as side airbags and front airbags and all that kind of stuff. But I guess it works somehow. I'm not sure how. I'd be very curious to know the legality of all that. But you can also even get a third row seat available. It's only a 2-seater there in the back and kind of looks a little cramped, but you can get that, which is interesting as well. And so yeah, the gas defenders here that we're going to be getting are going to be arriving in the US next spring. And the pricing hasn't been revealed for the 2-door yet, but it has been revealed for the 4-door. And it's going to be starting at only $50,925. So very reasonable, and you can even go on the configurator on Land Rover's site already and configure one yourself. And yeah, I configured one, and if you get a nicer one with a bigger engine and some nice features and stuff, you can easily get well into the 70s. So they do get pricey, but again, considering you've got Wranglers going for 60 grand almost these days and Gladiators going for 60 grand, having this thing start at 50 almost sounds like a bargain. A very aggressive price point, and so anyway, interesting to see that. And the rest of the news this week is electric vehicles. And I know many of you that's a bummer and you'll probably just quit watching at this point, but there is a reason to stay till the end because there's a little interesting tidbit that I will hint at before I go at the end. But anyway, the next thing, also a very sweet car though, that Hyundai revealed at the Frankfurt Motor Show was the 45 Concept. And so it's mostly just a design study, I think, of, you know, what a mostly autonomous electric hatch will look like from Hyundai possibly in the future. But it has a lot of cool features here. It's got dot matrix lighting, lounge-like seats that swivel, almost like a car from the 60s or something. A lot of them had that feature, which is very cool to make it easier to get in and out. Looks fantastic, though. I really am digging it, and it harkens back to their first concept from about 45 years ago. And I do see this potentially having some production potential, though, because, you know, you think about, like, they have the Kona EV powertrain. They could throw that into this thing, and this could be based on, like, the Veloster or something, just with different bodywork. Throw the electric powertrain in here, and you have a great competitor to, like, the Honda E hatchback, which we frustratingly aren't getting here in the States. Could be a much cooler alternative to, you know, the Chevy Bolts and all that kind of stuff. This looks way cooler if they could actually translate this to production. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we do get, like, the Kona EV powertrain in something that looks like this. I think that would sell very well, especially if it's got 250 miles of range like the Kona does. So anyway, interesting to see that, and hopefully Hyundai actually builds it. Another very cool looking electric concept that was shown that really wowed a lot of people in Frankfurt was the Mercedes-Benz Vision EQS. And this one's definitely going to lead to a production car. We already saw it spied testing. I think we might even see the production version before the end of the year, but it might be after that. We'll have to see. But anyway, so this concept car has a claimed range of 435 miles thanks to a 100 kilowatt hour battery. There's dual motors for all-wheel drive, and they make a total of 469 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60s in under 4.5 seconds. And it can also charge from 0 to 80% in under 20 minutes with 350 kilowatt fast charging. So, you know, it's not super fast 0 to 60, but that's how I think it has the higher range to kind of beat the Teslas, even though the performance won't beat the Teslas. And I think for a lot of luxury EV buyers, they want range above anything else. And so I think Mercedes is kind of prioritizing things well here. They also really knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, with styling. So it's very dramatic, a wild departure from other Mercedes products, which I'm appreciating here. So there's lots and lots of lights. To be exact, there are 940 LEDs on that front end there, and 229 LEDs on the rear, plus this light belt that actually wraps around the entire side of the vehicle as well. And so all that stuff is super sweet, and things that possibly could maybe make it to production, at least most of it, I don't know. But one light feature that won't make it to production most likely is that this concept has digital light headlights with 4 holographic lenses that rotate over 2,000 RPMs to produce an image to communicate with drivers or pedestrians. So think of this like the holograms you see, you know, at concerts for Michael Jackson and all those types of things where, you know, you have these holograms projected. They're kind of doing a mini version of that here, I think, in these headlights, which is insane to have in a headlight. Very cool technology. Awesome to see Mercedes innovating like this. Maybe something like that could come. I know Europe's more open to, you know, fancy headlight tech more so than the States here, where we're very much held back by laws that are super outdated. But anyway, the interior is all touchscreens, and it's very cool looking as well. And so we'll see how many of those features the production EQS keeps, but hopefully we won't have too much longer to wait to see what they're cooking up. But if it's even half as awesome as this concept, it is going to be very impressive for sure. So anyway, cool to see that. Volkswagen revealed their production electric car, the ID.3 here at Frankfurt, and it's about the same size as the Golf, but with a 5-inch longer wheelbase and much more interior space thanks to that electric drivetrain. And it looks pretty cool to me, honestly. The light bar across the middle is especially nice. It's got a little matrix LED headlight setup that actually can flutter their eyelids to kind of wink at the driver as they're approaching, which is an interesting touch. It also has a glass hatch, which is also pretty cool. Inside is pretty minimalistic, but it still has a 10-inch touchscreen, so plenty of tech. Small digital gauges there, but you can get an optional heads-up display that will actually give you augmented reality navigation as well, which is pretty cool. They all run a single rear motor, making them rear-wheel drive, which is pretty cool. It makes 201 horsepower and 229 pound-feet of torque with a top speed of 99 miles per hour. Only battery at launch here will be a 58 kilowatt hour pack for 261 miles of range. Eventually there's going to be a cheaper 45 kilowatt battery version that's going to be available with 205 miles of range. And then there's also going to be a bigger top of the line 77 kilowatt hour battery that's going to have a range of about 342 miles on the European test cycle. So that is going to be very impressive for a vehicle that small. And so you're going to be able to do 100 kilowatt charging on the smaller two batteries for about 180 miles of range in 30 minutes. And then the bigger battery should be able to do 125 kilowatt hours of charging. So going to be a little bit faster for that bigger pack. It's going to be going on sale in Germany in the middle of 2020 with a base price starting around $33,000 when you convert it. It's like about 30,000 euros, about $33,000. And that's before tax incentives. So it's kind of a shame we're not going to be getting it here in the United States, though, because I think, you know, with the tax incentives, you can get the full $7,500. If they did even price it identical to Europe, you'd still be looking at basically a mid $20,000 vehicle. And I think a lot of people would go for that, honestly. But instead, Volkswagen has decided to start their electrification here in the United States with the ID crossover that's going to be called the ID.4 and was actually briefly teased there at Frankfurt as well. And so we'll probably be seeing more of that. I'm guessing the LA Auto Show in November is when they'll choose to debut that, most likely. But I think that's not even going to be arriving, though, until I think the end of 2021 is the rumor for that. But we could get an R version of this ID.3 possibly, considering, you know, there's talk that we're not going to get the normal Mark 8 Golf, but we will get the Mark 8 GTI and R. And so maybe we'll get the R version of this ID.3 if it comes. But Autocar got a quote at Frankfurt from a Volkswagen board member here that said, if there is a future for R, it must be electric. It's very simple. So, I mean, they're all going electric on everything. So we know there's going to be a normal Mark 8 Golf R. That's going to be gas or at least a plug-in or something like that, plug-in hybrid maybe. But we'll have some type of gas component. But, you know, for this could kind of lead the way for R and do some type of electric thing. And they mentioned it could have all-wheel drive too, and so even if they just use the same motor they use in the rear and put the same one up front, you're looking at already a 400 horsepower and about 450 pound-feet of torque vehicle. That would be plenty of performance for a new R version, you know, to compete with the Golf Rs and stuff like that. But if that did come, hypothetically, it wouldn't come until 2024, supposedly, according to Autocar. So anyway, interesting to see that. Jaguar teased a brief back-end shot here of the new all-electric XJ during their Land Rover Defender presentation, and according to Auto Express, they got a quote here of Jaguar CEO. Whenever he revealed this picture, he said, "Based on our rich knowledge of and experience gained from I-Pace, Formula E, and I-Pace E-Trophy, our engineering team is in full swing to deliver the world's first full electric luxury sports saloon, the flagship of Jaguar, the all-new XJ." So I'm not sure how they could even possibly consider this as the first luxury sports saloon, considering there's the Teslas, and even if you don't consider those to be sports saloons, then you even have the Porsche Taycan already. So again, I don't get where they're getting that claim, but it's exciting, you know, even if they just use the I-Pace powertrain and put it into the XJ in a futuristic package, I think it'll be an exciting looking vehicle and should be a cool option there for Jaguar. The last little news story here this week is that Nissan had a dealer meeting last month, supposedly, according to Automotive News, and they showed an electric crossover they plan to sell by the end of 2021. And so, according to the dealers there, Automotive News says the styling is going to be similar to the IMX Concept and be about the size of the Nissan Rogue, but with the interior space of the Murano, thanks to the EV powertrain. They claim it'll do 0 to 60 under 5 seconds and have 300 miles of range, and that's what they were told at the dealer meeting, supposedly. And the concept version of Automotive News is suggesting it could be shown at the Tokyo Motor Show next month. And I'm telling you what, if you definitely watch the weekly updates next month, because it sounds like when that Tokyo Motor Show hits, it is going to be all kinds of exciting, because there's already rumors like last week about the next gen WRX and WRX STI possibly showing up there, next gen BRZ and 86 possibly showing up, 6-cylinder Mazdas, even been rumors of an NSX Type R showing up, and even some other stuff. Honda might have a new EV sports car. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. And so this could show up there as well, but this might not be the only Nissan. So I can't say too much more because no one else is reporting on it, and I don't want to give away my source too much, but I will say that this Nissan wasn't the only Nissan shown at the dealer meeting. Dealer meetings often show multiple cars, and that was the case at this one, and I think there's stuff that's been highly anticipated that we'll hopefully be hearing about very soon, and could be also showing up at the Tokyo Motor Show next month. So lots of exciting stuff coming this fall, I think, for enthusiasts of JDM stuff here. Like I said, the BRZ and the WRX and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it should be an exciting fall, guys. So anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.